All right, we are back here on Selection Sunday on the Just and the Suffering podcast. I'm your host, Mike Phillips, getting ready for the NCAA tournament. Join me as he has throughout the year, and our co-host of the month of March, the host of the Seeing Red podcast, Troy Mauriello is here. Troy, how are you?
Mike, I'm doing great. It's a great time of year, and looking forward to breaking down the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, this is Christmas for college basketball fans, and we got to talk about the news of the day here. I mean, Tom Brady unretired. He tried to steal the thunder from us.
Yeah, right. Like 15, 20 minutes after the brackets revealed, we got Tom Brady on retiring. Kind of steals all of our thunder. But listen, as a college basketball fan, I could care less about Tom Brady right now. I want to look at this bracket. I want to fill out my bracket, and I want to watch some college basketball. I'll worry about Tom Brady in April and May. In March, I'm focused on the tournament.
Yeah, I am focused on the tournament as well here, and we have our field of 68 is officially revealed here. And in general, I gotta say, I think they did a pretty good job. There are a few nitpicks I have, but I think they did a pretty good job putting teams in the right places.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, a couple things here and there. I do think that the best 64 or 68 teams did get in. The best 36 or whatever at large teams did get in. I'm really don't have any issues with who didn't get in and who did get in. But yeah, some of the seedings you can complain about a little bit, like you said, a little bit of nitpicks. But overall, I thought, yeah, a pretty good job by the committee.
Yeah, I think for sure here. Before we get deeper into the bracket stuff here, I want to talk about the big news item of the weekend that's actually not related to the brackets itself, but a big impact on the college basketball world here as LSU fired head coach Will Wade on Saturday after they received their notice of allegations from the NCAA regarding the pay for the athlete like paying scandal back in 2019, back when they had on the wiretap. Some reason LSU kept him for 4 years. Now he gets fired, and I'm going to share the screen here because they do have a lot of issues here because I believe Pete Thamel of ESPN had it on here, and I'm going to throw up the tweet because he put up some good stuff on here that we had 8 total level 1 violation allegations against LSU. 7 which are tied to basketball. Here's allegation 11, which will loom large of this case. Quote, the institution failed to exercise institutional control and monitor its football and men's basketball programs because obviously we had allegations that we had him on the wiretap, offered to pay players. We had him paying hush money to a player's fiance to not rat out what he's doing. We had parents getting paid. We had no-show jobs. I mean, this is a disaster.
Yeah, and it's like you mentioned. I don't know. We knew about this for a while now. I don't understand why he was kept on. I guess, maybe they thought it wouldn't be that bad, but, a lot of this stuff, like you mentioned, was on wiretaps. It was out there for everyone to listen to and for everyone to hear about. It wasn't like a secret or anything like that something was coming. Obviously, really, really tough timing for LSU that, 24 hours before Selection Sunday, they got to fire him. But, I just don't understand why he was kept on for so long when it was pretty clear something big was going to be coming down on them.
Yeah, I think it's one of the cases like LSU just didn't care, where they were saying like, okay, like he's winning, like we're doing well, like we'll just kind of sweep it under the rug and hopefully it's not bad. And then because did see they amended his contract after remember back in 2019 he was suspended for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
he didn't coach that tournament. And reworking his deal, and they gave him the ability to fire him without cause, like fire him for cause, and not actually have to pay him his contract here. I think there is sort of going, okay, well, if it comes to that, maybe we win, maybe we don't, but like we have a better chance with him here. And now they're in a world of trouble.
Yeah. This is going to set their program back a while for sure. And I mean, it's like you mentioned, how much does winning excuse? How much can you sweep under the rug when you're winning? And they obviously have continued to win this year. They're an NCAA tournament team. They're a 6 seed, but at some point, the allegations and the punishment from the NCAA comes down on you, and you have to say enough is enough. No amount of winning can cover what's coming. And like you mentioned, that's a lot to have to deal with for them for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm trying to go to my bracket right now, see where LSU ended up because I forgot they're a six.
They're a six, yeah, against Iowa State.
Iowa State, and like that's a rough spot to be in if you're Kenny Nickelberry, the interim coach there, because now you got a team there. Your team just is reeling because you lost the coach, you lost the SEC tournament. Now you got a team that could play defense at Iowa State. You might have Johnny Davis second round. Not going to be a fun week for the Tigers.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking LSU in that first round game against Iowa State. I think that's going to be a pretty big upset pick for a lot of people, that 11 seed over a 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some of the bubble scenarios here, because we were here about 6 days ago talking about, the bubble's not really great this year. I feel like the most active was on the bubble. I feel like there's so much happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, again, in terms of snubs, or how strong weak the bubble was, I didn't really have any major issues with any of these bubble teams being left out. You feel bad for a team like Texas A&M, who went so far in their conference tournament, ends up not reaching the tournament. But these teams are all in the bubble because they're all mediocre teams. If they were better, if they were not a mediocre team, they'd be an 8, a 7, a 10 seed, somewhere in that range. If you're on the bubble, there's a reason why you're on the bubble. All those teams that got left out that are playing in the NIT, that were the first couple of teams out, they had plenty of opportunities, a lot of them, to play themselves off the bubble. And really, there's a reason why they're not in the tournament.
Yeah, I do want to say also, I do think I'm with you in the fact that I feel like if you are on the bubble, like, I think the committee handled this the correct way, in that, like, you should not be able to have like one fantastic week and then put yourself like pretty securely in the field. Like, where we saw Virginia Tech win the ACC tournament as a bid thief, which we call that as a possibility as an ACC bid thief, and they get an 11 seed after winning the ACC, despite all their metrics. It tells you, like, if they did not win that thing, I don't think they're getting in.
Yeah, no way. And they said that on the broadcast, I believe. With them as an 11 seed, yeah, if they didn't win against Duke on Saturday night, they would not have been in the tournament. And yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned with Texas A&M as well. A great couple of days for them in the SEC tournament, but you can't finish it off. And they're not going to reward you for 2-3 months of kind of so mediocre type play, but then a great 4-day run or a 3-day run that comes up a little bit short. Yeah, I agree with you. I do like that. They're not rewarding teams for playing great over a span of 3 days, when over a span of 3 months they didn't do enough to put themselves off the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Texas A&M here, don't lose 8 games in a row in the middle of the season. Like, that would be my advice to you. Like, don't, and 2 of those, I think, we're at home to Missouri and South Carolina. Like, I guarantee if they won those 2 games, they're in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you shouldn't have been in that spot where you had to win the SEC tournament, or you wouldn't have been in that spot, I should say, where you had to win the SEC tournament if you took care of business earlier in the season. If like you mentioned, if you didn't lose a bunch of games in a row, if you didn't lose a bunch of games to teams that were at the bottom of your conference, you wouldn't have been in that spot. So, I guess I feel bad. Of course, you made a great run. If that was my team, I'd be really upset that they made this great run, came up just short, and it wasn't enough to get them in. But at the end of the day, they had plenty of opportunities to not be in that spot going into the SEC tournament.
Absolutely. Let's look at here at real quick. We'll start with the last 4 teams in. These are be our first 4 matchups in Dayton on Tuesday and Wednesday. And it's nice to see that we have the entire tournament back to its traveling roadshow aspect, which I do love here. So a reminder here that on one side, we have Rutgers and Notre Dame. The other side, Indiana and Wyoming. So are you surprised at any order of that these teams are actually here or not in the field? Any of that surprise you at all?
Honestly, I'm really surprised Indiana and Rutgers are not in the field of 64. I'm actually surprised by that. Indiana, I thought, played themselves off the bubble, to be honest with you, with their performance at the Big Ten tournament. Going down or upset, or not knocking off Michigan, knocking off who was it, Illinois, that they beat, and then playing on Saturday and losing on basically a buzzer beater there at the end of that game. I thought Indiana played themselves off the bubble. Rutgers, I thought that they had enough of quality wins. The Big Ten is a tough conference. Of course, they had a bunch of bad losses. We talked about this last week. That was the reason why they were on the bubble going into the Big Ten tournament. They certainly didn't help themselves out in the Big Ten tournament. If they would have won their first round game, they obviously would not have been playing in that spot. But Indiana and Rutgers, I think, kind of surprised me that they are in the playing games, while a team like Michigan is in the normal field. That kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, the Michigan thing did surprise you a lot, because this is a team that went 17-14 in the regular season, and we saw a similar resume in the Big 12 get left out. And Oklahoma went 18-15, and Michigan, I think, went 5-10 against quad one opponents. Oklahoma went 4-12, and I think the strength of schedule is differentiator there. But to me, I find it hard when Indiana beats Michigan on neutral floor.
Exactly.
2 rounds further, they're in the first 4. Michigan's safe on the field. That I don't like.
Exactly. I mean, listen, I think Michigan should have been in this tournament in some capacity. I would have had them in the first 4 for sure. when you're a 14 loss team, I don't care what the metrics say. I don't care what your quad one record is. I don't care what your strength of schedule is. If you have 14 losses and you're only 3 games over 500, if you're in the field, you should be in the first 4, in my opinion. So them playing, in the or getting kind of a bye into the first round really surprised me, especially like you mentioned. There's a team that just beat them 3 days ago that is not that is playing in the first 4. That really surprised me.
That did surprise. Let's go real quick to the first 4 out, and I'm going to pull that screen up here as well. And I think these are all from the NCAA's March Madness Twitter account if you're watching the video version here. So our last 4, Dayton was the team. They were team 69. They got bumped out of the field when Richmond stole the A-10s bid, which was something we called earlier in the week. It said that A-10 was definitely a bid thief. Texas A&M, we talked about a bit. SMU, very bubbly resume. Oklahoma, we talked about a second here. Of these 4, who do you think has the biggest gripe for why they're not in the field?
Yeah, I guess Texas A&M, to be honest with you, making it to the SEC title game. We just kind of spent some time ripping them a little bit, but still, at the end of the day, they won 20 plus games. They were in the SEC title game. They got a couple of big wins this week. Oklahoma, I don't think was a tournament team, to be honest with you, this year. What, they have 15 losses? They were not a tournament team this year. SMU too, was kind of your, like you mentioned, your typical bubble team. And Dayton for sure got knocked out by Richmond winning the A-10. But yeah, I guess if I had to pick one, Texas A&M. But it's like we just mentioned, none of these teams I think have a clear case at why they should be in the NCAA tournament over anyone else. I don't think that there's anything crazy about these 4 teams being left out, personally.
Yeah, I think the SMU thing. I think if you're SMU or you're annoyed that you swept Memphis in the regular season, you didn't have to beat them a 3rd time to get in, but they really played nobody out of the league. I can't really blame them there. Oklahoma, I do wonder if they had beaten Texas Tech and gotten to the final and lost to Kansas, they'd be in. I think they might have been.
Yeah, I agree. Depending on where if they were able to get maybe one more quality win, maybe that would have been enough. But again, a team with a lot of opportunities that, in my opinion, with the eye test, that was not a tournament team this season from what I saw.
Yeah, I have one gripe here, I think, on this board here. I put Dayton over Notre Dame. That'd be my change to the field. Like, I don't think Notre Dame should have been in there. I mean, they were, I think, they were the 2-8 in quad 1 games. They had picked up a lot of wins because they mediocre ACC. They lost their first AC tournament game to Virginia Tech, who was on to win the thing. And they have 3 good wins all year. Dayton, I mean, they're out probably because they had those 3 quad 4 losses at home in a row in November. But like they beat Kansas, they beat Virginia Tech, they beat Davidson late in the year. They were beating Richmond before their guard got hurt in the semifinal game. 17 minutes left to go. They collapsed after that. So I think for me, I'd rather have Dayton in there over Notre Dame. I think Dayton's more capable of making some noise in the first 4.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the first 4, the one team I think that is the question mark in there is for sure Notre Dame. We just mentioned Rutgers and Indiana. I thought should have just been in the field of 64. And then Wyoming, I thought played a really good season this season and deserved to at least be in the field. So Notre Dame, yeah, for sure, is that kind of one team that, in my opinion, was a question mark. And so I could have seen Dayton swapping in for Notre Dame, and I wouldn't have had a problem with that. It's really just a toss-up between those 2 teams, but I would agree with you there.
Yeah, I think I was higher on them, and the committee was higher on them. A lot of the bracketologists were, a lot of them were like, next 4 out. Some even had them in that category. I'm like, watch that team. That team is good.
Yeah, and they ended up making it, but just fall a little bit short.
Yeah, I'll also point out 2 teams that are not on this board that we talked about could not afford to lose a game in their first game in the conference tournament. Wake Forest lost to Boston College, not even in the first 4 out. Xavier lost to Butler, slid right out of the field.
Yeah,
not good weeks for either of them.
Yeah, and Xavier, you got to think if they just win that game against Butler, they're probably in. I mean, if they would have won that game and then lost to Providence, I think worst case they're probably playing in the first 4 right now. But yeah, I mean, that's just such a bad loss to complete what was such a bad slide for Xavier over the last couple of weeks of the season. Yeah, so a real bummer for them to really go from securely in a lot of brackets like a week ago or 2 weeks ago to, completely out of the field. Just a complete fall from them. I think that coach is probably on his way out, to be honest with you, because they've done this now really 3 seasons in a row where they've just completely went into a tailspin at the end of the season. Yes, so tough. And then Wake Forest, yeah, like we mentioned, team that just couldn't afford to lose that first game, had to at least win 1 game to feel kind of secure, and they don't do it. So, yeah, two teams that certainly played themselves off the bubble this week.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Xavier here, I mean, if I told you in mid-January and they're 14-3, they win over Ohio State in there, I tell you, this team is going to lose 10 of its last 14 games, miss the tournament. You probably would have thought it was on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. A team that was ranked in the top 25 for a good portion of the season doesn't even make the tournament. And like I mentioned, this is not new for Xavier. They've done this now. They did it last year. They did it in 2020 as well. Before that season got canceled, they were playing themselves off the bubble. They lost the Big East tournament game to DePaul to kind of knock themselves off the bubble that year as well. That's 3 straight years under Travis Steele that they've done this. I think his time is probably up there. That's a program that has had some history, had made some runs. They've been a 1 seed before in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. 3 straight years where they've really fallen apart down the stretch.
Yeah, and in terms of Wake Forest here, I think Steve Forbes in a tough spot because that team probably got better a year before he thought they would.
Yeah.
And that 320th ranked non-conference tournament schedule, the committee will always punish you for that. And then you go lose your first game of the AC tournament to Boston College. That's a no-no.
Yeah. You feel bad for them because, like you mentioned, they probably did not schedule like a team, back in September. They were not scheduling like a team that thought they were going to need these quality wins because, like you mentioned, they probably thought they were a year away, kind of in year 2 of his tenure there. So that's kind of a bummer for them. But still, I would say that's a team that's a year ahead of schedule that certainly should have tournament aspirations next year and should be one of the better teams in the ACC.
Yeah, that's one where I think the NIT will benefit them because they'll actually get some experience playing together, and your young team, they can build on that and probably get into the tournament next year.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fan base that, you should be upset for sure. You played yourself off the bubble in the last couple of weeks, but, playing the NIT, get better, get some more games together, try to make a run the NIT, and then next season, try to, be securely in the tournament.
Yeah, I'm going to throw the entire bracket up here for a second. So we're going to take a look here at the full field of 68, and I'm going to throw this up here 1 second. It's a lot of fun trying to optimize this. It's not great, but on Zoom, but I'm going to actually take this, go back to wrong screen share. Technology is fun. So here we go. So here's our field of 68 here in terms of everything here spread out. So in terms of just the bracket as a whole, like, is there any glaring mistake you feel that they made apart from our Michigan should be in the first 4 deal?
No. I would honestly say Michigan is really my only big issue. I thought that they should have been in the first 4, but I don't think anyone is crazy overseeded or underseeded. I thought they got the 1 seeds right. The 1 seeds kind of played out how you thought they would. I don't have any major gripes about the 2 seeds either, to be honest with you. So yeah, outside of Michigan, not being in the first 4, there's nothing that really stands out that they got completely wrong, in my opinion.
I think there's one mistake I think they made here. I think Tennessee plays way on the 2 line and just ignore what they did over the weekend here. And I think that bothers me because like you look at their resume, they're 26-7. They go 14-4 in the SEC. All 7 of their losses are in quad 1. So like, it's not even they lost a bad game. They played tremendous schedule. They win the conference tournament. They beat Kentucky twice down the stretch. They beat Auburn. They're a 3. They're behind Wisconsin in the S curve for some reason. And Duke, which is lost, I think, like 4 games outside of quad 1 and lost the conference tournament to Virginia Tech, which is not even in the field until they win that game. That they're a 2, that bothers me.
Yeah. I think if you were going to bump Tennessee up, you could for sure have bumped Duke to the 3 line. You even could have bumped Auburn down, to be honest with you. I think that they were very high on Kentucky. But like you mentioned, Tennessee had a couple wins over Kentucky, including on Saturday. Yeah, so, yeah, they certainly had a case for a 2. And that's a tough region for them as well, to be in that region with Arizona, with Villanova. That's not going to be easy picking for them. They certainly, if I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be pretty upset with my draw for sure.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, if they do get that 2 seed, though, they're in the same region as Gonzaga. I don't know if you want that either.
Yeah. The 3 seed path for them might be a little bit easier. Just looking at it now. Yeah. But I mean, who knows? We could see upsets in the first couple of rounds that totally negate all of this anyways.
As far as Tennessee's path goes, don't forget they did beat Arizona earlier this season when they played them in Knoxville at non-conference play. So that's one I think that's going to be Rick Barnes circling that one, saying, guys, we can beat anybody in this field. We just beat the number 1 seed in our region in December.
Definitely, yeah. And I think we mentioned last week, Villanova, the 2 seed in that region. They win the Big East tournament for sure. They don't look overly dominant in doing so. They almost got upset by my St. John's on Thursday night. then they play, a pretty crappy game against Creighton that they're able to pull it out on Saturday. So, I think that this is a Villanova team. I think that they have the talent if the draw plays out for them in the right way to make the Final Four. But I don't think that this is like, a typical, or not typical, but, a Jay Wright championship level Villanova team like we've seen in the past in 2018 and 2016. I think Villanova can, if the cards kind of fall right for them, they can make a run. But I don't think that anyone should be overly intimidated by Villanova.
Yeah, let's go region by region here real quick. I'm going to start in the West region with our top overall seed, Gonzaga here. Gonzaga is the 1 seed in that region. They could get either Boise State or Memphis in the second round. UConn's the 5 in that region. Arkansas, Vermont's, I think, a fun game. I got to talk about Alabama here. We'll get to them in a minute because they're, of course, the most typical Alabama fashion of this entire tournament. Duke's down here. Michigan State, Davidson, I think, is a fun game. So what do you think about this region in general?
It's a really fun region. I think there's a lot of fun first round matchups and a lot of fun potential second round matchups as well. I mean, you look at Gonzaga, they're of course going to get through to the second round. They get either a matchup with Boise State or Memphis in the second round. I would love to see Gonzaga and Memphis go at it. That'd be a really fun one. I like Arkansas and Vermont in the first round. That's a cool game as well. You got, Vermont, who I believe has pulled an upset in the past over someone. I'm not remembering exactly who it was over, but yes, yeah, exactly. That, so they have had it happen before. And then at the bottom of that region, you got Duke, obviously a first round game that they'll walk through, but then either a matchup with Izzo and Michigan State or Davidson in the second round. So a really fun, interesting path for Coach K. I think the story of this region, while Gonzaga is the 1 seed, I would think that they're still the favorite. But, the story is, can Duke and Coach K kind of write that storybook ending that they haven't been able to write really in the first 2 opportunities? You look at last week against North Carolina, Coach K's final game at Cameron. They lose that one. They lose the ACC tournament final. Are they going to go out now with a loss like in the second round against Michigan State? Will they be knocked off in the Sweet 16? Will they make it to the Elite 8 and maybe fall to Gonzaga? So I think, while Gonzaga is the 1 seed and the favorite, I think the story of the West region is going to be, how far does Duke go and where does this, end for Coach K? And are we seeing this, storybook ending to the Final Four for Coach K?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the team that's going to trip them up here, I think, is Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is, the sleeper in this region here because they're the 3rd team in the Big 12. People kind of forget about them. They play the nastiest defense in the country. They have a very talented core here. I mean, scoring points is an issue at times, but the way they defend, they can beat anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would really be looking forward to a potential Duke Texas Tech Sweet 16 game. That would be a lot of fun. And then even potentially Texas Tech and Gonzaga maybe in the Elite 8, a rematch from a couple of years ago where Texas Tech won. So that's a lot of again, more fun matchups in this region.
Yeah, if you're picking upsets in this region, where are you looking?
I'm looking at Vermont over Arkansas, to be honest with you. I like Arkansas, I do, but I just think Vermont, they've got that coach. He's been there a while. I like Vermont over Arkansas. So if I was picking one upset, I would go the 13 seed Vermont over Arkansas.
Yeah, I think Vermont is a good pick because I know Seth Davis saying on the CBS selection show that this basically is a better version of Colgate, and Arkansas struggled mightily with Colgate last year. So I could see this being a spot that get picked off. The one I'm looking at here down to the 7-10, Davis is going to be Michigan State. Michigan State is not the same team they were earlier in the season here. They don't have a big time scorer who can beat you. They turn the ball over a lot. Davis is a disciplined team. Davis can shoot. They're not afraid of playing the Giants here. They won at Alabama earlier this year. I think Davis can pull that upset.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that one. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, we got to talk about our favorite team here, Alabama, because the most Jekyll and Hyde team in the country here. And they have potentially the most fun path here through here because they get a play-in winner between Rutgers and Notre Dame. When I saw that, I said the bracket guys have a sense of humor. They put Alabama as one of drawing the first 4 winner here because there's always usually one who wins. I would not be shocked if Rutgers wins this game and beats Alabama. But at the same time, Alabama could beat Texas Tech and get run this region. And they beat Gonzaga already this year.
Yeah. No, honestly, I could, like you mentioned, I could see if Rutgers gets through Notre Dame. I could see Rutgers knocking off Alabama. I could see Alabama making a run to the Sweet 16. Nothing, with the way that they've played this season, nothing would really surprise me in terms of how far Alabama goes. So yeah, they are, they get kind of 2 matchups there that kind of fit their entire season.
Yeah, I telling people who I wrote this on Fanside as well. My teams that can bust your bracket article, they're in there. I'm like, pour a nice stiff drink when you try to figure out what to do with Alabama in your bracket.
Yeah, it's literally anyone's guess. They could, like we said, could very easily be playing one game in this tournament, or could be in the Elite Eight or in the Final Four. Who knows? They've beaten the one seed in their region already. So yeah, who knows where they're going to end up?
Yeah, let's go in seed order here. So now we're gonna go over to the South region, where our number one seed here is Arizona, and they did sustain an injury in the Pac-12 tournament. Guard Kirk Crees has sprained his ankle and didn't really hurt them against UCLA in the final. We'll see. They could probably afford to let him sit that first round game and still have a good shot to get through here. They have the 8-9 winner of Seton Hall and TCU. Rough draw for Seton Hall.
Yeah, yeah. If they get through that first round, I think if you're seeing all, you'd almost have rather been a 10 seed than an 8-9, and playing a tough game against TCU that they could very well lose, and then taking on Arizona in the second round.
Yeah, Houston, they proved me wrong. They gave them a 5 seed here, and they're playing UAB in the 5-12 game. I think that's a popular 5-12 pick. Illinois,
Yep.
Chattanooga, Seth Davis pointed out that one's an upset special there. I think Michigan here is the 11 seed. Tennessee, who I love. I think in terms of underrated games this whole tournament, Ohio State, Loyola, Chicago, the
Yeah.
7-10 is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Loyola Chicago, we know the Magic, Sister Jean in March. Do they have a little bit more left in them? And either way, you're getting a fun second round game if Villanova can get past Delaware. You get either Ohio State Villanova or Loyola Chicago Villanova in the round of 32. But yeah, that's a really sneaky one of the games that I'm most looking forward to in the first round for sure. Ohio State Loyola Chicago.
Where are you going for the upsets in this bracket?
I'm going Seth Davis. You mentioned Illinois or Chattanooga over Illinois. I could absolutely see that one. That's a scenario where honestly I could see UAB and Chattanooga facing off in the second round. The 12 over the 5 and the 13 over the 4. Neither one of them would surprise me. I really haven't been high on Houston all season long. Maybe it's just bias because they play in the American. They're not really on national TV all season long, so I haven't seen them play a ton all season long. But I don't love Houston, to be honest with you. And Illinois just they just haven't clicked for me for a good portion of the season. They have obviously a beast in Kofi Coburn, but I could absolutely see Chattanooga over Illinois, and I could see UAB over Houston as well.
Yeah, I think the Houston one I'm there with you here because again, like they got their first win over a team in the field today. They beat Memphis. I know the metrics low. They say they're like a top 5 team in the country. I know they went to the Final Four last year, but I don't see it. I don't see it without. And Kelvin Sampson has said on record, like, you want us to be as good as we were last year, you need to give him back Trayvon Mark and Marcus Sasser. I don't have either.
Yeah.
So I think Kelvin's telling you this team is not as good as they were last year. I don't think they could get anywhere close as far.
No. Yeah, I either see a first or a second round upset being knocked out for them for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, this is a fun region here because, like, I think I would love to get the Tennessee Villanova Sweet 16 matchup there. And Villanova, I mean, sure, happy they're on the 2 line, but not happy they're not in Philly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that if they could have picked, they would have for sure preferred to be in Philly. That we talked about that before, that they kind of messed with their schedule a little bit, their home schedule, to have Philly as an option, and unfortunately it doesn't work out for them. So, but yeah, in terms of other upsets as well, honestly, we were just dogging on Michigan. It would be so typical for Michigan to knock off Colorado State in the first round. That would just, I don't think it will happen, but I'm saying that's something that would be so typical of March Madness and the NCAA tournament. We're saying Michigan should have been a first 4 team. We're saying that they should have been a team that shouldn't have been in the field of 64. It would just be so typical for them to knock off Colorado State. I could 100% see that happening, even though I don't think it will.
I will point out, though, over their best about dozen games, so they've alternated wins and losses, and the last game was a loss. So by that theory, they're due to win and then lose Tennessee.
Yeah, and I could see that absolutely happening. I think that we're in a crash course here for Arizona versus either Tennessee or Villanova, and I know that's chalk, but I think Arizona is going to run through that top half of the bracket. There's no one there like I just mentioned. Houston and Illinois, I could see both of them getting picked off in the first round. I could see Seton Hall and TCU giving Arizona a game, but I don't think either one of them really should scare Arizona. I think that they're going to roll through to the Elite Eight and then have a really fun matchup either against Tennessee or Villanova.
And the thing with Tennessee, it's scary, is I love Tennessee, the team, but knowing I have Rick Barnes in March against Jay Wright, it's not a fun feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Coaching advantage there would for sure go to Villanova, and that's a team. I mean, of course, they don't have a ton of guys that were on that 2018 team, but Colin Gillespie he's their leader. He's got that March experience for sure. But yeah, I think we're going to see, in terms of the Elite Eight matchup, I think we're going to see some chalk in that region for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to go now. We're going to go to the Midwest region where Kansas got the 1 seed after they completed the double. They won the Big 12 regular season and conference tournament. And, bro, they got the easiest path to the Final Four of any 1 seed. They got 2, 3, and 4 are all slumping in their preseason.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I just said that about Arizona, but look at Kansas. I mean, who in this region is beating Kansas? I mean, I said Arizona has a cakewalk to the Elite Eight. Like you mentioned, Kansas has a cakewalk to the Final Four. If they can't get to the Final Four this year, I don't know if they ever will, going forward with Bill Self. I know they haven't passed. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Auburn as the 2 seed is kind of in a slide. I haven't been high on them all season long. Wisconsin, same thing. They do have Johnny Davis, who can take over games for sure. And Providence, who, a lot of people, the discussion with them has been all season long. Are they for real or not? They're coming off a 40-point loss in the Big East tournament on Friday night. Certainly not playing, their best basketball for sure. So yeah, the 2, 3, and the 4 seed in that region don't really scare you. Iowa, of course, has the Big Ten title, but I don't see any way that Kansas doesn't come out of this region. I know that we have upsets always. I don't think that this is going to be the region where we see an upset.
Yeah, I think honestly, there's only 2 real spots where Kansas loses here. I think number 1, I think, is the 8-9 game. If they're looking ahead, I think they can get trapped. Maybe if Creighton comes out and shooting hot, that's one option.
Yeah,
the other one is Iowa, but again,
yeah,
we're talking about coaches doing a great March track record. Fran McCaffrey's up there.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, a team like Iowa just played in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe they've peaked a little bit. It's hard to kind of keep that momentum going through a couple of weeks. But yeah, I would agree with you though. If we're looking at a team to pick them off, I would say I guess it's Iowa. But like I don't see the 2, the 3, or the 4 seed in this region even really giving Kansas a game. To be honest with you, I think, and I haven't been in love with Kansas all season long. But I don't know how they don't walk through to the finals in this one.
Yeah, and we mentioned this is also where LSU is, where we have the whole thing where they're dealing with the coach being fired. Wisconsin looks very shaky down the stretch. They lost to Nebraska. They lost the last 2 games in Nebraska and Michigan State. Johnny Davis got hurt in one of them. Miami's in here. They have some good wins. I don't know. USC, I don't know. Providence here. I think this, if you're looking for upsets here, I think this is the one. I think South Dakota State is scary. They could put the ball in the basket.
Yeah, that's going to be a popular upset pick as well. The 13, I think I've actually said all 3 13 seeds over 4 seeds as upsets right now, which probably won't happen. But yeah, a lot of people are going to pick South Dakota State over Providence. Providence has been that team all season long that, the question marks have been there about them. And South Dakota State, a team that just ran through their conference on the way to a conference title. So yeah, that's going to be for sure an upset pick for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, if you're looking for the 2, 3, or the 4, the best chance to beat Iowa, beat Kansas, I think is Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin, I think, has to get there, obviously. I don't know if because they play much slower brand of basketball. They can pound the rock, keep Kansas from getting a ton of possessions here. Johnny Davis has a big game. I think that's probably the one scenario where Kansas does not get the Final Four of this region.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. If we're looking at just the top 4 seeds in terms of who can give Kansas the game, it would be Wisconsin by doing, like you said, winning a typical Wisconsin March game, a game in the 50s, low 60s, trying to, limit the amount of possessions. And, for the first time in a while, Wisconsin has a legit star on their team that could take over a game late. That can't be, discounted on in March when you have a guy like that. We saw what Johnny Juzang could do for UCLA last season. They have a guy like that in Johnny Davis. So we'll see if Wisconsin can make that run and maybe knock off Kansas. But personally, I don't see it in this region.
Yeah, I think in terms of games to watch here, I think the Providence South Dakota State games be a lot of fun. I think probably the best game of the first round is the 8-9 game between San Diego State and Creighton.
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, just from like a maybe not, it's not going to be a great game, but LSU Iowa State, that's going to be an interesting game to see how LSU comes out. Coach just got fired. I don't know if that game is Thursday or Friday, but still, coach got fired less than a week ago. You got to play an Iowa State team that's coming out of the Big 12. That's been ranked in the top 25 at some points this season. It's going to be very interesting to see how LSU plays in that game, like I said, that's going to be a really popular upset pick, the 11 over the 6 there. I'm just interested to see how LSU comes out of the gate in that one for sure.
I might back LSU, just the fact that Iowa State cannot score the basketball. That's a problem.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the gambling thing, right? Everyone, the public is all on one team, go with the other one. Everyone's going to be on Iowa State, or at least everyone that follows college basketball, I think, is going to be on Iowa State in this one. Again, much like what I said about Michigan, it would be so college basketball, so March Madness for LSU to win that game. It would just be so typical March Madness for LSU to somehow make the Sweet 16 or something like that with an interim head coach. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but it's something that, we see happen in college basketball all the time. These things in March that just make no sense.
Yeah, as you would say, the public's going to Iowa State, the Sharps play on LSU. I'll be with the Sharps on that one.
Yes, exactly. You always want to be with the Sharps, and that's one for sure.
Yeah, and last but not least here, I think the most fun region here, the East region, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that one here as we take a deep dive into that one here. So on side here, we got Baylor and Norfolk State, 116 here. Baylor holds on to the last 1 seed. North Carolina, Marquette, fun 8-9 game. St. Mary's is a dangerous 5.
Yeah.
UCLA, who I love, is the 4 here. Texas, Virginia Tech, I think that's going to be fun. Purdue's here. Murray State's in there against San Francisco. I think that's probably a great mid-major game. Kentucky's in here. So this is a fun region overall.
Honestly, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I think probably the most fun region or one of the most fun regions for sure. You look at the top 4 teams in this region, Baylor, Kentucky, Purdue, and UCLA. I could see all 4 of them going to the Final Four. I've been high on Purdue and UCLA all season long. I could see either one of them making a run for sure. Even a team like Texas, or even a team like St. Mary's in Texas, but St. Mary's especially, like you mentioned, that's a dangerous 5 seed for a team like UCLA to possibly have to play in the second round, and then Baylor to have to possibly play in the Sweet 16. And just looking at these games in the first round, I mean, every one of these games is watchable. I mean, the 116, you throw that out, but the other 7 games, I would say are certainly watchable. Maybe I'm a little biased, I love local basketball, seeing St. Peter's and Shaheen Holloway take on Kentucky. Maybe that's not everyone's style, but I'll be interested in that game as well. Yale and Purdue, that's a fun one. The Ivy teams are always pesky in the first round in the NCAA tournament. So I think that this region probably has the most fun first round games. And like I mentioned, I think it's really, take a dartboard and throw darts at it to see who's going to be the team that gets out of this region to the Final Four.
Yeah, I know that there's always this thing that you say, oh, don't put all 4 of the ones through to the second week, because usually someone gets picked off here. I think this could be it right here, because I think North Carolina obviously came on strong late in the year. They had the win at Duke. They get to the semifinals of the ACC tournament. They have the talent anybody in the country. They haven't played up to their potential here. And Marquette, I mean, they have that run in the middle of February. They swept Villanova. They beat Providence. I mean, they had a really, really good run. And I think either of those teams would give Baylor a big run for their money.
Again, another March Madness thing, right? We've been ripping on North Carolina all season long since December, basically. How typical would it be for North Carolina to knock off Baylor in the second round and to go to the Sweet 16? Wouldn't shock me at all. And yeah, I think if you have a 1 seed that's going out early, I think it's going to be Baylor for sure. If you have a region, if you're filling out your bracket and you don't want to have all 4 1 seeds, I would think that the East region is the one that's the most gettable 1 seed for sure. That could be knocked off at some point before the Final Four.
Yeah, I think here in terms of upsets, where are you looking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a clear upset in this one, right? Because I like St. Mary's, and like I mentioned, I love Purdue and I love UCLA. Maybe Virginia Tech over Texas. Texas is not playing great at all. Virginia Tech just ran the table in the ACC tournament. Again, I don't know how much the momentum of those things really carries over. But yeah, if I had to pick one, I would say Virginia Tech over Texas. Even that 7-10 game, I think Murray State's really, really good. I could see them. I see them getting through San Francisco. So I don't see any major upsets in the first round in this one. But if I had to pick one, I would say Virginia Tech.
I love Virginia Tech in that game, because Texas, you and I know, they do not play very well outside of Austin. They have trouble beating good teams away from there. Virginia Tech, the metrics all year have been saying it's a good team that has just not performed up to their ability. They've lost a bunch of games to the ACC. That's why they were not even really on the bowl when they got into Brooklyn, but they're playing very well now. They have a coach and who won a tournament game with when he won it down at Wofford, Mike Young. Storm Murphy came over from Wofford, the
Yep.
grad transfer, and they have that experience there. Chris Beard, I mean, he spent the whole year trying to build that team up with all the transfers he brought in. They've not really gelled as much as they can.
Yeah.
I think I think this is one I'm thinking about very seriously here because also I think there's a good shot here Virginia Tech gets to Sweet 16 because Purdue is
Oh,
not
okay.
play a lick of defense, and we saw against
Mhm.
Iowa today. I mean, Virginia Tech can put the ball in the basket with anybody in the country. I think they give a good shot to knock Purdue off.
Okay, that's yeah. I mean, I love Purdue. I've been high on them, since preseason. But yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech, like we said, they got the momentum coming out of the ACC tournament, so we'll see about that. And Texas, a team that just has totally underachieved this season from what we thought they would be at the start of the season. I thought that they were a Final Four caliber team at the start of the season. To go into the NCAA's as a 6 seed and to really not have a much of a shot here. I mean, everyone has a shot, of course. But to go into the NCAA tournament as a 6 seed after what the preseason expectations were for Texas, got to be disappointing for Chris Beard in year one.
Yeah, and for me, I'm a big UCLA backer. I do have that $50 future on them win the championship. I saw them get in this like, oh, okay, this is fun. Then I see the 5 there. I'm just going, why? That's a game I can barely
Yeah,
see them losing.
Yeah, that's a really tough second round game for them. I mean, St. Mary's, as we know, knocked off Gonzaga, gave them a game last week as well. Yeah, that's a St. Mary's team that is probably the best of the 5 seeds, I would say, and it's not even really close. That's going to be if that ends up being the 4-5 matchup, that's a really fun 4-5 matchup in the second round.
Also, can we please? I know respect to San Francisco because they have not been in the tournament since 1998. Fun to get them back here. We need to get Murray State and Kentucky in the second round. We have to get that game.
Yeah, that's another fun second round matchup to see. Murray State team that, of course, has gone under the radar. I mean, I haven't really seen them play very much at all outside of their conference title game. But man, that would be another just fan. I mean, look at the potential second round matchups in this region. You get Baylor versus potentially against North Carolina, like you mentioned, Murray State, Kentucky, potentially St. Mary's, UCLA. Maybe Virginia Tech, Purdue, Texas, Purdue. There's some really fun second round matchups in this region for sure.
Yeah, this one I think has the most chaos potential of all the 4 regions.
Yeah, I agree. The most watchability for sure. And yeah, like I said, anyone can come out of that region for sure.
Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna throw the full bracket up here because one of the fun things of the first weekend is obviously now that last year we were in the bubble, Indianapolis. This year we are now back to our regional sites. We have matchups and we have pods in San Diego, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Portland, Greenville, South Carolina, Fort Worth, Milwaukee, and Indy's back in the mix here. So if you could pick a pod to go to, where would you want to go this weekend?
Okay, well, as I know that it's not really the most biggest destination at all here, but as a Big East fan, I would like to go to Buffalo. Actually, I think you get a couple of good games in Buffalo if you look. South Dakota State and Providence, like we mentioned, a potential upset there. A Providence team that has certainly had their question marks all season long. That should be a fun game. You get Iowa and Richmond in a fun 12-5 game. You get New Mexico State and UConn in another 12-5 game. That's an interesting one. And then at night, Vermont against Arkansas, another game that I thought could have been an upset special there. So 4 games, two 4-13 games, and then 2 5-12 games that all should be close in my opinion. So like I said, maybe not the best destination, probably the worst destination in terms of traveling to. But if I was going to one, I would really like to be in Buffalo.
Yeah, I would go to Indy, my personal pick here, because I think I'm looking at obviously again Murray State, San Francisco is fun. I got the Kentucky Murray State second round game, that'd be great. I got potentially Tennessee, Michigan in the second round of that pod. That's underrated pod.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean just a lot of interesting matchups there, and a lot of interesting second round matchups there as well.
Yeah, the half the Milwaukee pod is fun because you got the Texas Purdue group there as fun. The Wisconsin half not as much in my opinion.
Yeah, LSU, yeah. LSU, Iowa State, Wisconsin. Yeah, nothing really stands out there. But yeah, the Texas and Purdue pod on that side is fun for sure.
Yeah, like you look for when you try and pick a pod here, I think Gonzaga's one is also a little underrated because they got formerly of Gonzaga in the Boise Memphis game, and then the other one there is the St. Mary's UCLA potentially second round.
Yeah, with that one, maybe you're a little bit sacrificing the first round for the second round. You could get 2 really fun second round matchups for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying. I think honestly, the worst spot here is probably Fort Worth because there's only really like one great potential game in there.
Yeah, Baylor. Yeah, you got Baylor in the 16, North Carolina Marquette. Yeah, you got 2 1 seeds in there. Yeah, and honestly, you need I would say yeah, probably Baylor and then their second round matchup is really the only great game in that one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's also take a look here. I want to look real quick at the TV schedule because some of these games are finally mid scheduled. So I'm going to go ahead and find the ESPN, I mean, the times here. It goes to on the ESPN site, they have the full schedule up there. So we're going to figure out the best viewing window. I'll tell you when you need to be in front of your TV. I know this is tricky for people who work and like, I know like you have the computer going here, but early window Thursday, Michigan, Colorado State, the first game of the day. So then South Dakota State, Providence, Memphis, Boise State, Baylor, Norfolk State. What do you think about this window?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to be watching all of it, of course. But yeah, you get 2 or 3 really interesting games there. Of course, we talked about Michigan, Colorado State. I just mentioned South Dakota State, Providence is a game I'd want to be at, and then you get an 8-9 game as well in there. No one really cares about the 116, but I would say 3 watchable games there.
All right, second window of Thursday here. Longwood, Tennessee, Richmond, Iowa, Georgia State, Gonzaga, Marquette, North Carolina.
Yeah, not as watchable as the first one. I mean, again, I'm going to be watching it anyways, but definitely, that 12-5 Richmond Iowa game is interesting, and the 8-9 game Marquette and North Carolina. But then you get 2 games that should probably be blowouts in Tennessee, Longwood, and then Gonzaga and Georgia State.
Yeah, luckily for me, I think I have to do some driving in that middle of that window on Thursday. So I'm glad there's not a ton in there for me.
Yeah, that's that. If you're gonna miss something, that's probably the best one to miss. I haven't seen the rest of it yet, but if I would assume that's going to be the worst window.
Yeah, let's go to Thursday night here. New Mexico State, UConn. Good job at St. Peter's getting on CBS National against Kentucky in that game. The St. Mary's, I think the Indiana, Wyoming
Yeah,
is there, and then Creighton, San Diego State. This is solid.
yeah, I agree. A bunch of watchable games there for sure. Like I said, even St. Peter's and Kentucky, I'll be locked into. So yeah, 4 for 4 there in terms of games that are going to be interesting.
Yeah, 3 or 5 12s are on Thursday, which is not a good sign for what Friday's going to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the late window, Vermont, Arkansas, San Francisco, Murray State, Akron, UCLA, Kansas, Gonzaga. This is okay.
Yeah. Again, you got the one. I'm going to be really interested in that Arkansas Vermont game, but nothing else really great there.
Yeah, for me, like unless UCLA is losing, I'm probably going to bed after Murray State, San Francisco's over.
Yeah, those are, yeah. I would assume those two. Well, of course, the late game is going to be a blowout, and you would assume UCLA handles business as well.
All right. Friday, the first game of the day, Loyola, Chicago, Ohio State. It's a good start to the day.
Yeah, definitely. But then it takes a little bit of a dive there with that.
That one, you might not be flipping the clicker on that one.
Yeah, that's not Jacksonville State Auburn is not a must see TV for anyone.
Montana State, Texas Tech, and then Yale, Purdue. So I don't think you're changing the channel too much.
No, yeah, you're going to be locked into that Loyola Chicago Ohio State game, and then if you got an upset brewing somewhere else, you go there. But that's the one game in that window for sure.
Second window here: Delaware, Villanova, Miami, USC, the Alabama game against Rutgers, Notre Dame, and Virginia Tech, Texas. I think this is my winner so far.
Yeah, that's a fun window. 3 really, really good games. You would assume Villanova and Delaware is a blowout, but outside of that, yeah, three very, very interesting games and 3 toss-ups as well.
Friday night window: Illinois, Chattanooga, Cal State, Fullerton, Duke, Iowa State, LSU, Arizona, and State playing winner. This is not fantastic.
No. Of course they get Duke in that primetime Friday night window. It feels like they're there every single season. They're in that 7:00 primetime game, no matter what seed they are. But yeah, nothing else in this window really sticks out. Should be, I would say, 2 blowouts. And then I could see Chattanooga and Illinois being a good game. And then, of course, you got Iowa State and LSU.
And this last window is fun window, which again, here, UAB, Houston, our last 5-12, Davidson, Michigan State, which is good, Wisconsin, Colgate, whatever. And poor Seton Hall fans, you have to wait till 9:57 on Friday to get your game in. And it's probably going to be close to like 10:20. You can factor in the delays.
Yeah. But I would say, 4 watchable games for sure in this window. UAB Houston, maybe not really like a sexy matchup there for sure. Not a whole lot of national appeal with those two teams. But then you get Davidson, Michigan State. You think that's going to be an upset? I could see that one being a great game. Colgate, Wisconsin. We saw Colgate gives Texas Tech some trouble last season. And then you end the night with TCU and Seton Hall, which should be a fun 8-9 game. So a fun window for sure to end the first round.
Yeah, it'll be a fun week for sure here, and I'm looking forward to it. Next week we're gonna be back here. We're gonna wrap up the round of 32. We'll be in the Sweet 16. We'll have some fun here next week.
Definitely looking forward to it. Like we said, this is probably one of the best nights of the year, and this is one of the best weeks of the year for sure.
Yeah, I think the 4 days basically from tonight until about tip on Thursday is very exciting, and then like once your bracket starts to implode and you see you lose your first Final 14, you're like, now do I hate picking these things every year.
Yeah, usually that happens for me around like Thursday at around 3:00. I lose a Final 4 team and then I'm done. I think I lost Ohio State last year and at 2:00 on the first day. So hopefully I can make it a little bit further this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, I remember it was a great episode of How I Met Your Mother. I think they had a March Madness themed episode where I think Ted and Marshall have their bracket on a giant chalkboard. And I think Barney walks in. He's like, yeah, your team just lost. It's like, I didn't even know they were playing today.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's usually how it goes, I think, for a lot of us.
Yeah, well, hopefully we have some success. So, Troy, thanks a lot of time. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, be a follow social media, keep up with the Seeing Red podcast.
Definitely, Mike. You can follow me on Twitter at Troy Mauriello. I do the Seeing Red podcast. If you're a St. John's fan, you can check that out. We just had a fun game in the Big East tournament. And no NIT, but should be a very, very fun off season for St. John's. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of the Red Storm.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're disappointed that there's no NIT.
Personally, no. I didn't really want to watch them in the NIT. I have no interest in the NIT, especially for a team that should have been in the NCAA tournament. Apparently, they wanted to play and they didn't even get picked, which is just a total embarrassment. What a terrible season for them. But yeah, I had no interest in watching this team anymore. So I could not care less that they are not invited to the NIT.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they can make the NCAA tournament next year, Troy. Thanks all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.